What's up, everybody? Justin here with a new episode of Who's Better, where I debate. Let me start over. New episode of Who's Better, where I debate two superstars against each other, and I argue for who's better, in my opinion. I can do it between tag teams, women, or singles, male wrestlers. This episode of Who's Better is between tag teams. Two of the greatest teams of all time that left their mark in different wrestling companies. One left a big mark and was probably one of the greatest teams in WWF history. The other tag team was one of the greatest in WCW history. This episode of Who's Better is between the Steiner Brothers against the Hart Foundation. The Steiner Brothers against the Hart Foundation. Not the faction or the group, the Hart Foundation, the tag team, the Hart Foundation. I'll talk about Hart Foundation first. They got together in 1985. And they lasted and stayed together until 1991. They are two-time WWF Tag Team Champions. They had great matches, great tag matches, and feuds with just about every team in the WWF in the 80s and early 90s. They had great matches with the Rockers, the Brain Busters, the Road Warriors. Well, the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, and the Hart Foundation only met once, and it was in 1991. They only had one match against each other, sadly. But the match against the Legion of Doom, it was still good. It wasn't great, but it was good. They had great matches against Demolition, Powers of Pain, the British Bulldogs, the Bolsheviks, teams like that. And Hart Foundation in the 80s, the Big Four pay-per-views, Hart Foundation was probably on every single WWF pay-per-view in the 80s. Just about. They were part of their first pay-per-view was WrestleMania 2, I believe. Maybe they were together during the Wrestling Classic, but I don't think they were. Anyways, Hart Foundation debuted basically on pay-per-view at WrestleMania 2. And I mean, they were on like every single pay-per-view in the 80s and early 90s. They were on part of Royal Rumble, SummerSlams, and Survivor Series, and WrestleManias. So the Hart Foundation, just a legendary team. One of the greatest teams in WWF history. They worked together at WrestleManias 2, WrestleMania 3, WrestleMania 4, WrestleMania 5, 6, and 7. So they were together for a lot of the early WrestleManias. As I said, they're two-time WWF Tag Team Champions. Also, in 2019, the Hart Foundation finally took their place in the WWE Hall of Fame. Just really sad that Jim the Anvil couldn't be alive to go into the Hall of Fame with Bret and Jimmy Hart. But I don't know, Jimmy Hart, I do not think was inducted for a second time as a manager for the Hart Foundation. Don't get me wrong, Jimmy Hart was great. The guy was damn good. as a manager for the Hart Foundation, he really helped get them over his heels and get them to be hated. Then they turned babyface in '88. So there are the stats and the career of the Hart Foundation in the WWF. Their final match is a team. It was on WrestleMania 7. After WrestleMania 7, they might have still worked together for a little bit on like Coliseum home videos, stuff like that. I think it was after WrestleMania 7 where the Hart Foundation took on the Legion of Doom, Road Warriors, for the first time. I think that was after WrestleMania 7. I know it was on a Coliseum video called WrestleFest 91 is where the Legion of Doom and the Hart Foundation finally met. Hart Foundation, a great team. Just really, just great. Legendary tag team. They were related. If you somehow are a wrestling fan and, well, you've been under a rock, I'm pretty sure everybody knows they were related. They were, Jim Neidhart and Bret were brother-in-laws. Because Jim Neidhart married Bret's sister. So he was a part of the Hart family. Even if they weren't related, damn did they work well together. So now I'm going to talk about the Steiner Brothers and defend their career and talk about what they have done. They did a lot. They started when WCW kinda was still called the NWA. They got together in 1990. The Steiners got together in 1989 is when they first started teaming. And yes, if you didn't know, yes, they were real brothers. And before they got into wrestling, they were amateur wrestlers, University of Michigan, just really great amateur wrestlers, NCAA wrestlers. I don't know if they were ever NCAA champions. I don't know if Rick or Scott ever won an NCAA title, but they were great amateurs. And they were damn good professional wrestlers. So the Steiners, as I said, started teaming in 1989. I think their first pay-per-view together was, or first event together might have been a Clash of Champions or a Great American Bash, maybe 89. Their first pay-per-view I remember them together was Halloween Havoc, 89. So the Steiners, what a career. The titles they have held. Let's go over them. They have held tag team titles from the NWA, WCW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, WWF, when they went to WWF in 93. And they were there for about over a year. And then they were gone. So they held tag titles for NWA, WCW, WWF, New Japan. Also, the Steiners were a part of a lot of big WCW pay-per-view events in the late 80s and early 90s. They were on most of just about every WCW pay-per-view in the late 80s and early 90s. They were consistent. They barely ever got injured. They showed up and they were, first off, Rick Steiner's tough as hell. That guy was damn tough. He was stiff. He was hard hitting in the ring. Sometimes he treated jobbers like Like, he didn't care if they got injured, how he would hit them with Steiner lines. Sometimes he acts like he didn't care if they didn't like his stiff, rough, tough style. I don't think he cared if you didn't like it. If you didn't like it, you should probably fall back and hit him harder. Scott Steiner, he wasn't as tough, in my opinion, as Rick, but he was stiff still. Scott Steiner, when he's with the Steiner Brothers, the guy was innovative. The guy was revolutionary. The guy did the Frankensteiner. I never saw that move done before by anybody. That was an awesome finisher. The Frankensteiner. I'm not talking about off the top rope. I'm talking about the guy would stand in the middle of the ring, throw his opponent into the ropes, and jump up in the air and head scissors you over, land on top of you, and cover you. Just a great move, the Frankensteiner. And Scott and Rick, the Steiners, just threw so many different suplexes that were innovative that I've never seen before. And what else? Off the shoulders of Scott Steiner, Rick would go up to the top, hit a bulldog headlock off his brother's shoulders onto their opponent. That was revolutionary. I've never seen that done before by anybody else. So the Steiner brothers were damn innovative in their moveset and what they could do with throwing all those different suplexes. German suplexes, overhead belly to bellies, T-bone suplexes, just so many different awesome suplexes the Steiners threw. So again, they held. They held a ton of tag titles. I gave you the list already. They also worked for a ton of companies, and they were damn good in every company. They were damn good in NWA, damn good in WCW, damn good in WWF, damn good in ECW. They even won a lot of awards for Pro Wrestling Illustrated, like Tag Team of the Year, Match of the Year, stuff like that. They were even WCW US. They were WCW US Tag Team Champions. Also, they were IWGP Tag Champs twice. For other smaller companies, they were their tag champs for a company called PACW, PCW, PWA, and UWF. They were tag champs for all those companies. Now I'm going to get to also they were together from '89, and their final time they teamed up was in TNA. They might have teamed up since on an indie show. I'm not aware of it. Last time they were on pay-per-view was like 2007 or 8 in a TNA pay-per-view. Was the last time they were together as a team. So the Steiners had longevity. They were together a lot longer than the Hart Foundation. But to defend the Hart Foundation, they probably broke up so early because it was obvious that Bret Hart was going to be a single star, and Vince wanted to push him as a single star. So let's go to the PWI Tag Teams of the Year. The Steiners won. The Steiner Brothers actually won Tag Team of the Year in 1990. In 1993, they won Tag Team of the Year. They should have won Tag Team of the Year in 92. because they were damn good. In 92, the Steiners were the second runners-up. In 91, they were the second runners-up. And after that, the Steiners were the first runners-up in 1997. So they won Tag Team of the Year twice. They probably should have won it 3 to 4 times. They were that good. Hart Foundation won, or maybe they haven't. That's shocking. Hart Foundation never won Tag Team of the Year. They should have. They didn't. They were the first runners-up in 1987, and in 19. The Road Warriors dominated the 80s. They were Tag Team of the Year many times. So, the Hart Foundation were only runners-up in 1987. 1990, 91, they weren't even runners-up. So that is pretty shocking. The Hart Foundation never won PWI Tag Team of the Year. Now let's go and see if the Steiners actually won a Match of the Year, a PWI Match of the Year award for 1991. The Steiners against Sting and Lex Luger won a PWI Match of the Year for 91. Hart Foundation never won Match of the Year. So, Feud of the Year. Let's see if they made it. No tag teams were Feud of the Year. So, the point is, the Steiners in this Who's Better episode, the Steiners and the Hart Foundation were fucking great. Great, all-time great Hall of Fame tag teams. The Steiners are in the Wrestling Hall of Fame and I think the Amateur Wrestling. I'm not sure about that. I know they're in a Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. They're not. I don't know if they'll ever be inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame. They should be. But Scott Steiner likes to speak his mind and likes to bash WWE. Rick does not have any heat with WWE. I even heard Rick say recently in an interview about a month ago that he would be happy to go in the WWE Hall of Fame and it would be an honor. But he said his brother kind of doesn't want to stop talking about them or something. And his brother has problems. Rick Steiner basically said his brother is the one with problems with WWE. He doesn't have any issues with them. So now who's better? Who's better between the Hart Foundation and the Steiners? Who do you think was better? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'm going to say the Steiner brothers were better. They were more innovative. They left their mark more, in my opinion, on tag team wrestling. The Steiners were better. They had great tag team matches with a ton of teams, from Harlem Heat, Doom, the Road Warriors, a Samoan SWAT team, Dr. Death, and Terry Gordy. They had great matches with. So many other teams. The Steiners had great matches in WWF with the Quebecers, the Head Shrinkers, the Beverly Brothers, the Steiners. Everywhere they worked, they had great matches with everybody. Steiners are better in my opinion. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Again, I encourage you to leave your comments. Who do you think was better between the Hart Foundation and the Steiner Brothers? Bye for now, everybody.